Of the Education is now called to order. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting tonight and just remind anyone who would like to speak to please sign the speaker registration form, and we'll get started by approving our agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda as printed?
Nothing for me, Randy.
Very good. Could we have a motion to approve our agenda, please?
Yes, Mr. President, make the motion that the Board of Education approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Celeste. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes, and we'll move forward with our agenda. And the next item on that agenda is the superintendent's report.
Yes, we have two scheduled reports here on the bond project update, and Mr. Edwards is here to present that.
Thank you. Superintendent B. Lang, President Van Antwerp, and members of the board, members of the community. Tonight I would like to provide the board with bond updates related to both the northern and the central campuses. First, for Northern's campus, we've installed 3 leaching basins in the retention pond behind the northern natatorium. The leaching basins were installed to address the issues of the rain not properly draining into the soil. With last week's rain, it appears as though the leaching basins are working as designed. The bottom of the retention pond was regraded. We will put down grass seeds and continue to monitor that area over time. Secondly, also outside the natatorium, we've reseeded the lawn to help with growth of grass. On the inside of the natatorium, the mobile bleachers have been installed. Other punch list items are still in progress. The final piece for the northern campus before I go to central is there has been a guard shack that was not in use. And if you had the opportunity to notice it today, the guard shack has been removed. We've added topsoil, grass seeds, and straw blankets over that demoed area. Moving to the central campus, just 2 quick updates. There's a retention pond just south of Central Middle School. There were 2 washouts there due to rain. We've installed some structure and piping to help control the rain flow. Both areas have been reshaped. We've addressed it by putting down grass seeds, straw blanket, and some stone landscaping. And finally, for the central campus, the light poles for the new parking lot arrived last week. Weather permitting, the light poles will be installed this week, and we will then be able to have use to that new parking lot. So that concludes the bond project updates before I go to budget. Any questions? In terms of the bond budget update, just want to bring your attention to the financial update work committed through bond change order 40. Just prior to our most recent board approvals, our previous variance was $1,905,779, and our current variance is $1,223,416. That change in variance is $682,363, and those 2 projects are in the last column. One is the central softball dugouts the board approved for $274,000, and then most recently the board also approved some technology upgrades for $407,000. This leaves us with a current balance of $1.2 million of unallocated contingency. And then on the other sheet for the remaining enhancements, I just wanted to remind the board that we have roughly $2.4 million in interest from the bond proceeds. So just a tad bit over $3.6 million still available in bond dollars that have not been allocated at this moment.
Is there a timeline for us spending that 3.6 million?
So our expert Paula, we've met our initial goal, in which you have to spend at least 85% of the bond proceeds in the first 3 years of issuance.
Okay.
And then lastly, they would like you to spend the remaining balance, the last 15% in the last 2 years. And as long as we're making a reasonable effort to spend down the dollars along with our project, our bond council permits us to continue to spend that. So we still have time to spend it. The exact timeline, I don't have in front of me at this moment.
But you're evaluating the other projects at this point?
That is correct. We are evaluating a series of projects that you have listed there, and we are also looking to get estimates on some of these projects as well.
Thank you.
John, I'd just like to make a comment. Being a tennis parent, now this won't affect me because I'll be gone.
Okay.
But when I sit there at these tennis matches, and we have these beautiful tennis courts, we have this beautiful middle school, a beautiful pool, a beautiful high school, and 3 porta potties right in the middle of it. So
Yes.
hopefully I just look at this like something doesn't fit here.
Yes.
And it's the porta potties. But yeah, I understand if it's really expensive, but boy, that would just, it's like the cherry on the top, you know, because everything looks so nice.
That is correct.
So, and then we got the porta potties, so.
And both Mr. French and Mr. Riker reminded me in our most recent meeting about that as well.
So good.
It is on the list of things we're going to.
Yeah, just,
Look
I see
for
it on the list, and I understand there's lots of priorities here, but thank you.
Johnny, on this list, there are some items that are highlighted and others not. Can you speak to that, please?
Yes. So on the list, you'll see items 1 through 6. These are all items that are in progress or near completion. We will be bringing to the board item 3 at a later board meeting around some additional busing. Later in today's meeting, you'll hear a little bit more about some refresh at the high school auditoriums. Yes, the board just recently approved us moving forward with the dugouts, and the board approved item 1, those technology budgets. Number 12 is West Middle School. You'll hear a little bit more about West Middle School today. But these are all projects that the auditorium refreshes we will do in pieces over time. Bo is doing an outstanding job of gathering the information we need. The dugouts, our goal is to have that completed prior to winter. And the West Middle refresh, again, will occur over time. But these are active projects that we have on the docket that we're moving towards completion as we get more and more information around our cost. The items that are not highlighted are a little more involved, and those will be addressed as we get more and more information to share with the board.
Thank you. If there are no questions, any more questions of Johnny?
No, I don't think so. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have just two quick items of information. We're holding our final open house for facilities at Central Middle School. That'll be on Wednesday, October the 6th. It'll follow a similar format to what you experienced at West Middle School. It'll run from 5 until 7 with some some presentation at 6:15. So community is invited to that as well, to board members. And then also the Kalamazoo County School Officials Association, KCSOA, meets on Wednesday, October 13th, and I believe you have information about that. I don't know how many people from our district have responded, but the response rate has been really low, and they really would like to know sooner than later so they can plan on facility and that. So we have 4 from the district so far. I know one of those is probably me, and then 3 board members. So anyway, so if you let Barb know if you're able to make that, and that is typically held at, on Western's campus at the Fetzer Center.
It said the Bernhard Center.
Bernhard Center
Right.
this time.
Oh, Bernhard Center, okay.
Is it the Bernhard Center?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Marty. We've reached our comments and communications section, and first is comments by citizens, and our secretary, Celeste Shelton Harris, will read our guidelines for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. President. The board welcomes community input at our public meetings. When addressing the board, please conform to these guidelines as follows. Sign the speaker registration form at the beginning of the meeting. State your name and address. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. Provide a written copy of your comments and supporting documentation to the board secretary if available. Present your comments in a respectful and professional manner. Refrain from mentioning any student by name and contact the superintendent directly regarding personnel matters. Board of Education members are not obligated to respond to issues raised during public comment. Normally, such issues are referred to the superintendent for follow-up.
Thank you, Celeste. As Celeste mentioned, our time limit for speakers is 3 minutes, and I will advise you when 2.5 minutes are up to give you time to summarize your comments. And we will take comments for 30 minutes, and then we'll complete our agenda and pick up any remaining comments at the end of the meeting. And with that, we welcome our first speaker, Caitlin Larson.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Larson. I am a fifth-year early middle college student at Portage Central, a program that in my opinion is not promoted enough with Portage students. I am here to speak against mask requirements for high school students. I don't go to the Central High School building, but I am under similar rules at KVCC. My personal experience with masks is that they don't reduce sickness. Instead, they make any sickness present worse. Every winter, I experience a small sniffle. Last week, I wore my mask to school in compliance with instructions. While wearing it, my sniffle became both a sinus headache and me blowing my nose every 2 minutes. This then decreased after my mask was removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Our next speaker is Darren Malik. Welcome.
To begin with, folks, thank you for the opportunity to speak. As parents with kids in our schools in particular, we appreciate having our voices heard by those who we've entrusted our kids to for their education and care as our surrogates. We hope you respect and honor our voices as you move ahead. We know that you care, otherwise you wouldn't be up there. But we also know that sometimes if you don't hear from us parents, you can find yourselves in an echo chamber or influenced by other voices from the outside. There's 3 things I want to touch on today in my brief time. First, the subject of masks. Second, on the subject of how the transition back to in-person learning is impacting our kids. And third, on the recent fall off of our performance as a school system in national rankings. On the first subject of masks, we're entitled to know where our elected board stands with an affirmative vote from each of you on the subject of masks one way or another. I was told by the district's attorney, who I communicated with, that this issue would be on today's agenda, and I don't see it. Maybe it's in the consent agenda, I don't know, I don't see it. But on the subject of masks, to me, this is an issue of parent choice. Let the parents decide. Regardless, if you vote in favor of masks, we need a very clear understanding of why you're voting in that manner, and I'd suggest we're entitled to it. So please vote openly on whatever policy it is that you want to implement and explain it to us, what the basis is. And for whatever it's worth, I hope you bear in mind that there are a lot of kids ignoring or largely ignoring this mandate, particularly in the high schools, by either not wearing masks or not wearing them over their noses or their mouths. If you believe in the old maxim, as I do, that leaders don't decide who lead, followers do, I'd suggest to you that this mask mandate in most places or some places, but not other places, has created serious credibility issues for the leadership of our schools. And that includes you folks and our principals and the teachers themselves. And if you're going to be voting for masks at all, or regardless, please clearly articulate for us as parents what circumstance will lead to the unmasking of our kids. For example, if you intend to mandate that all kids, teachers, and staff must be vaccinated, if those vaccines are available for kids, younger kids, as a condition of removing the mask mandate, can you please tell us that? On the subject of transitioning our kids back to in-person full-time.
2.5 minutes, Mr. Malik. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm concerned that our district is not doing enough to help our kids with their stress and anxiety coming back. And so I ask you to do more. Finally, on the subject of our school's overall performance, while we've been focusing on mass and spending hundreds of millions of dollars on buildings, our standing among our peers in this state and nationally has fallen. In 2012, Portage Northern was ranked number 10 in the state. In 2013, Portage Northern was 20th in the state, number 572 nationally, while Central at that time was ranked 32 in the state and 724 nationally. The most recent U.S. News and World Report tally ranks Portage Northern High School as 57th in the state and number 1,727 nationally, and Portage Central is 83rd in the state and number 2,455 nationally.
3 minutes, Mr. Malik. Thank you.
If I may, just a couple more seconds, please.
Couple, 2 seconds.
We
gotta move on.
I understand. Our current superintendent was hired in 2013, and this board has been in place with several of the same members since that time. Our current superintendent's salary and benefits package this year is worth over $373,000. Together with all 9 administrators, excluding principals, teachers, and staff, there's about $2 million of salary and benefits being paid.
Thank you, Mr. Malik.
And one more moment.
Thank you very much.
With an average of over $221,000 a year, our fall in dozens of state and national and thousands of national positions is not the result of budget or funds. So my question to you folks simply is, what is the cause of this, and what are you as a board and our handsomely paid administrators going to do about it?
Mr. Malik, you're at 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Kelly Sackett. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Kelly Sackett. I have 2 children who attend Portage Central High School. I'm not going to speak today about the stats for how bad masks are for our children. The bottom line for me is this is parent choice, and we know that children are suffering psychological as well as physical damage from wearing the mask. There are 45 million children in the United States. 1 million of them have tested positive for COVID. We know that number to be low. It's probably more like 4 million have tested positive for COVID. There have been 400 deaths from COVID for children. In that same time period, 1,100 child suicides. I don't think I have to connect the dots there to see what's going on with our kids with being masked. The school board actually opened up the Portage Northern pool at the beginning of September with a ribbon cutting ceremony. While the students stood on the sidelines with their mask on, all of the board and the admin were cutting the ribbon without mask on. I'm not really sure what type of image you think that portrays to our children, but I look at it and I think this seems more like what Gretsch would do. It's the do as I say and not as I do kind of mentality. This is not what we should be portraying to our children. Everybody should be masked up. If they have to be masked up all day in school, then everybody should be masked up all the time. There should be no exception to that. We actually did a FOIA request with the Kalamazoo County Health Department asking for hospitalization rates for elementary-aged children who resided in Kalamazoo County March through September of 2021. And the number that we received back from them, from the Kalamazoo County Health Department, was there were less than 5 child hospitalizations. I take that number as actually probably being 0, if it's less than 5. Give us the actual number. Why are we masking these kids again? There were 22 new cases of COVID at Portage Public School within the last week. Why don't we get the breakdown by what school and the age of the child? We have a running ticker, but never positive drop-offs from that number. We need more accurate reporting of that information. Again, it should be reported by school and by the age of the child.
2.5 minutes, Kelly,
So that
please.
we actually have a way to figure out what schools it's affecting most. And the last thing I have to say is, I have a child who is a senior in school. She just returned back to school this fall, was out for 18 months. She has done everything that has been told of her that she should do. She's vaccinated. She wears masks all the time, even in the hallways. After 3.5 days in school, the first week of school, she got very sick. We had her tested for COVID. Lo and behold, it wasn't COVID. So we took her to the doctor a couple days later. Doctor said she has influenza. I would like for you guys to tell me, what do we do with a child that has influenza? I mean, do they have to quarantine? Are they in danger to others? What's the protocol for that? I'd like to know the breakdown and how many children have actually gotten sick with respiratory infections and also sinus issues since we're masking them all day long. These are things on your website that I don't see any of the answers to that. That would be helpful to me as a parent whose child had to stay out of school for an entire week for being sick because of wearing a mask to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. Our next speaker is Karen Smoots. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Karen Smoots. I live in Portage. You know, one of the things that's bothering me as I sit here, and I've sat at every single board meeting, is the lack of attention that the board shows the parents who showed up here tonight, the texting, the cell phones. You know, at least that you could do with each and every one of the parents that are sitting here tonight. We don't get paid to be here. We pay your salaries, we pay our taxes. The least you could do, the very, very least, is make eye contact and show attentiveness. It's one of the things we learned very early on, is to make eye contact when somebody's speaking to you. And it's extremely disrespectful to sit back here and take away our family time with our children and to watch you text messaging, barely paying attention, and falling asleep. That's been at every single board meeting I've been to, and it's frustrating. So I'm starting mine with hypocrisy. The definition of hypocrisy: the practice of claiming to have moral standards on beliefs in which one's own behavior does not conform. For example, defined as saying or feeling one thing and doing the other. Kelly gave you an example. I saw it on September 8th on the Portage Public Schools Facebook page of the ribbon cutting ceremony at Northern. 2 out of 9 had masks on. 2 of 9. And you were all within 6 inches of each other, behind a ribbon, over one another's shoulders. My son goes to school at Portage Central High School. He's asked to put a mask on in every class period, but then he can walk out of the class, take his mask off in the hallway. He can take his mask off at lunch. So apparently COVID doesn't exist in the hallways and it doesn't exist in the lunchroom. And then I attended a 9th grade volleyball event. Your athletic director, the high school principal, and every guest in there, nobody had a mask on. So COVID shuts off at not 2:40 in the afternoon, and then when everybody gathers in the gym, it's not there. I just want to understand as a parent what's going on. It's not that I don't respect that somebody wants to wear a mask, but we should have a choice, okay? That's it. It's just a parent choice. So I'm really frustrated with hypocrisy. And you should all be ashamed of yourselves of sending that message to our children, because that's what they're seeing. They are asking questions, and they are questioning the why can they wear it here and don't have to wear it there? Why here and not there? And if it was so bad, why is there a 99% survival rate? And why are there less than 5 children being hospitalized when you FOIA Kalamazoo County?
2.5 minutes.
All
Karen?
we want is answers. So, we are asking that you give the parents a choice. I have no problem with the children that need to wear a mask or want to wear a mask, or families or parents. But it absolutely, positively, 100% should be our choice. It should not be yours. You're not their parent. You don't need to protect my child. That's my job. You need to educate them, and that's what my atrocious tax bill to the city of Portage paid for. That's all we're asking is a choice. Maybe we should concentrate more on sending a message of hope after these 18 months instead of sending a message of fear, because that's what you're doing. So let's talk about, if you get COVID, that you have a 99% survival rate, that you're going to be okay, instead of instilling fear and muzzling our children. And we know why, because they're an easy target. They don't have a voice, they don't have a say, but you have woken their parents who will be their voice. Because that's why my son is not here tonight. He was fearful of his teachers being here, and he was fearful of what would happen if he spoke up at this meeting. And he knows enough to be concerned about that, and as his parent, I told him I would be here, and
Thank you,
I will
Karen.
be his voice.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Lloyd Peterson, please. Welcome.
I'm Lloyd Peterson, and my daughter goes to Portage Central. Thank you for allowing us, your constituents, to speak before this board. When elected officials make policy, I expect them to have looked at the pros and cons related to each decision. I do not expect each of you to be an expert in all areas that you have to address. However, I do believe you should base your decisions on as in-depth knowledge as possible. You are often exposed to data that the general population does not view. And there are times when you have constituents and others who have expertise in different areas of interest and share that knowledge with you. It is through the knowledge gained from these types of resources, review of data and opinions, that I expect you to use sound judgment and make informed decisions. We now come to the issue of wearing masks within our schools. There appear to be a limited amount of scientific studies pertaining to the efficacy of paper masks and or cloth masks in the risk of conducting COVID-19 virus. It appears that wearing the N95 mask is effective in limiting molecules the size of the virus to pass through. However, to remain effective, those masks must be changed at frequent intervals and not touched by hands. I believe we have around 8,500 students in the Portage School District. If all the students wearing N95 masks, changing them every hour, we would only need 51,000 masks per day. Our students could also wear cloth masks. However, they appear to leave 97% of the molecules the size of the virus to get through. That, coupled with the ills of wearing a cloth mask all day, would appear to indicate that it may not be the best for our children. As noted in the Danish study published in the journal Annals of Internal Medicine, there appeared to be no significant difference in the percentage of population who tested positive for the virus between populations of those who wore masks and those who did not. In the Swedish study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, they reported data collected for a period of March 2020 through June 2020. Of the 1.95 million children ages 1 to 16, 15 children had COVID-19, MIS-C or both conditions, and were admitted to ICU. None of those children died. What appears to be reflected in the data that we have to date is an indication that children are less likely to get the virus and are less likely to pass it to others, and or less likely to have long-term significant health concerns as related to the virus. I ask of you now, based on sound informed judgment, to vote on this matter to let us know exactly where each of you stand and why. I also ask you to consider, why is it that this appears to be the only virus wherein having survived infection of the virus and now having significant immunity to the virus is not considered when making policy?
2.5 minutes,
There is an appearance that these decisions are based on political constructs and not the well-being of our children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Lloyd. Our next speaker is Howard Ryan, please. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Howard Rind. I live on Brindle Trail in Texas Charter Township. My daughter Talia goes to School at Portage Central Middle School. Oh, my daughter goes to Portage Central Middle School. I spoke at the last board meeting, and it's clear that logical arguments, rational arguments, data presented are meaningless to this board. We're well beyond that point. I won't stand up here like I did last time and present succinct perspectives on COVID, mask wearing, vaccines, because they'll fall on deaf ears, it seems. I'll remind the board that I'm a PhD level scientist with experience, over 20 years of experience in molecular biology and virology. I'm well versed in mRNA-based therapeutics, and I write reports, safety pharmacology reports for the FDA. I submit those. Yet the things I said here probably were meaningless. They were pointless. So since we're past or beyond the point of logical discussions and discussions of persuasion, I'll remind the board a few things, more things. One, you are chosen by the citizens. You are chosen by the citizens to meet a dual responsibility, one of which is meeting the desires of residents. You've heard what these residents want from the board. You heard last time, overwhelmingly, right? It's not a fringe minority. This is the majority of the community here speaking to you, telling you what they want, and it is your mandate, not your prerogative, but your mandate to accommodate the desires of the residents. So since we're past discussions and persuasive speaking, I'll just get to, well, what can we do? The electoral process clearly indicates that Randy Van Antwerp, Celeste Shelton Harris, and Keith Crowell are up for re-election next year. I promise you that I will work tirelessly with the community to ensure that none of you are re-elected. I'm also aware, I will, and I'm also aware that there is a recall process for board members as per MCL 168951, and it describes the process, how to go about doing that.
2.5 minutes, Howard. Thank you.
Okay. There are a couple of reasons that a board member or a board vacancy could occur. One of them is if the board member is adjudicated insane. Well, you know what? I think what you're doing to the kids with the mask, given the data that we have now and what we know, I think that's the very definition of insanity. Oh, am I out of time?
You can summarize your final point, sir, please.
Thank you. Jim Rutherford said recently that he's encouraged that a safe vaccine will be available for children ages 5 to 11 by the end of October. Is it the objective here that once we vaccinate every young child, it'll be safe to take the masks off? I'll tell you, you're very naive if that's what you believe. Extremely naive, and we will not tolerate it.
Thank you, Howard. Our next speaker is Kimberly Larson. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Larson. My address is on the form that you have there. I have spoken here a few times before. I've mentioned that I'm a teacher. I want to talk a little bit about what my students go through. They come into the classroom. They have a mask on. I can tell you I spend all day. Where is your mask? Please go get your mask. Put your mask on. They're over it. They are over it. So then we get to meals. My students eat meals in the classroom. So they've been wearing a mask all day. And then the meal comes. They put it down. Obviously, you can't wear a mask at mealtime while you're eating. I have a couple students who've tried. They feel like they have to ask permission to take their mask off so they can eat. Really. But somehow, magically, COVID turns off. So they take their mask off, they can eat in the classroom, then they go down for a nap. I'm fortunate, I'm one of those teachers whose students take a nap. They're young enough. I've experienced middle school, high school. I know what it's like. I've done that for years too. But my students right now take a nap. They don't wear a mask. So for an hour or more, if they need it, because some, it's impossible to wake up. You try. For that time, COVID turns off. They don't have to wear a mask. Apparently, they're not susceptible. Then I look at my son, my child who is in high school, and he is not under a health department mandate to wear a mask, but this high school's decided that he needs to. He needs to wear a mask during class, and then he steps out into the hallway and COVID turns off. He goes to marching band practice. If it's raining, thundering, they're inside practicing. Guess what? COVID turns off. They're no longer required to wear a mask during that time. COVID turns off during that time. And the science, I say, if we're following the science, how is that possible? And then I hear about elementary schools. You see, my son wears a mask during class, and when he's in the hallway, he doesn't wear a mask. And yet elementary schools that have been approved by the health department that this is a valid way to do it, it follows the science, they wear masks in the hallway and not in the classroom. And somehow the opposite both follows the science. And I don't understand that, even though I majored in physics. Hello, I research, I'm a geek. Then I talk to HEPA people, not HEPA people, the people that work with the air systems. I'm a geek, I talk to them, I go to the experts. And they say that allergens and viruses last in the classroom or in the air, in a room, for 8 hours.
2.5 minutes.
And so somehow this follows the science that they wear a mask and then they turn it off and it doesn't. Now I get it, COVID's scary. They're like, wear a mask. If parents want their children to wear a mask so they feel better, that's fine. My daughter just spoke. The mask is making her sicker. And yet, if she is, or when she is, because it's inevitable, when she is exposed to COVID, I'm her mother. I want her immune system at the ultimate operating order. I don't want her sicker when she's exposed. I want her immune system at the top-notch ability to fight that virus. I want her as healthy as possible. And you're telling me that my son's already in quarantine right now as a close contact. You're telling me that his immune system needs to be in the dumps because of that mask. While right now, he has the potential as a close contact, he has been exposed to COVID. And so what I'm asking for you is that the high school, which is not under a health department mandate, I get your hands are tied for the elementary, I'm sorry, but I would like his immune system to be able to function at the highest possible manner by not wearing a mask, by being able to breathe properly, by not having those snots and everything. I mean, my students, oh my word, those masks, snot all over the inside of their mask. I'm like swapping it out, put on a new mask, please, it's gross. I want them at the top functioning order. Now, my son, he's high school, he doesn't have snot, but still, he's breathing in and out germs. I don't want those germs held against his mouth. I want him to actually have an immune system that will function well.
3 minutes,
so that he doesn't
Kimberly.
have
Thank
COVID.
you.
So he can fight it. Is this too much to ask?
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Robert Walk.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rob Walk. Appreciate the opportunity to speak again. I think I've been here the other 2 times that we've spoke. I want to echo some of the sentiments that others have said here. Hypocrisy is a big one. The practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. We saw that in a number of ways with the board here, just in the time that we've been here. Whether you mask up and get together or whether or not, whether you go to a ribbon cutting ceremony, forcing our kids when there's no mandate, there's only a mandate for K through 6, and then, which you guys sat here and said, hey, there's no mandate, it's parent choice. And then as soon as one comes down from the county, you mandate the rest with no vote, how would we know that changed as parents? I don't think we got the memo on that. So I would love to see where the documentation is that you guys voted on that, or what happened to show that changed somewhere, because I didn't see where that came in. I'm going to agree with everybody else says. I'm not going to echo, but hallways and where kids are closer than they are in classroom. That doesn't make sense, right? So I just want things to make sense, right? And I think that's what the parents are asking for. We want choice for our kids, but if you're not going to give us choice, at least have it make sense. Because I think, like I said, our kids are asking questions. They're asking darn good questions. And what I don't see from you are any answers to our kids' questions. You're the folks who are supposed to be making the rules. We're the answers for our kids. Like, hey, I can go here, I can go to volleyball practice afterwards and have a volleyball game with 1,000 people, or I can go to the soccer game, the U of M or Western Michigan soccer game. I can go to all these different places. My kids, I can take them. But yet when they get into school, for the few hours that they're here, they have to be masked. I don't get it. I don't get it. The numbers don't lie. The numbers aren't made up. There's no pandemic. Norway said there's no pandemic. It's endemic now. Norway just came out this weekend. Said, hey, this is endemic. This is going to continue to happen. We're going to continue to have COVID. It's not going anywhere. The death rate is so small at this point. The hospital rate is so small. The reason we have full hospitals is because they've mandated vaccines and they've lost all of their staff. If you look at the percentage increase, they talk about percentage increases in COVID cases. They don't talk about how many people came in and had COVID. They talk about percentage increases and percentage full. Hospitals have always been full. Now they have less beds available, so they're even more full.
2.5 minutes, Robert.
I really wish you would follow. Just think for yourselves. I asked you guys last time to be moral guardians for my children. I'm still asking you. 7th to 12th grade should not be in masks. They should be parent choice. We're fighting the battle with the county commissioners and with James Rutherford for our little ones. Please, please continue to be the moral guardians. We want you guys up there providing for our kids the way that we've entrusted you with our support when we voted for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lindsay Reyna, please. Welcome.
My name is Lindsay Reyna. I'm a Portage resident. This is my son. He used to attend Portage schools. Now I drive him 45 miles one way to go to a different school so he doesn't have to wear a mask. That's my commitment. This is only my second ever board meeting, but guess what? I'll never stop coming. I don't prepare things when I come in to talk at these types of meetings. I just observe. And I let my brain and my heart take me where it needs to go. And I have to say, you really ought to think about what you look like sitting up there. Because when we watch you and we see the complete disdain that some of you have, the eye rolling, Mr. Van Antwerp, you're really good at keeping the time, but when you have the little smirk at the end, it's visible. We can see you. I would really encourage, maybe have someone that you trust or that is a close friend or family member, maybe they ought to videotape what it looks like from an audience member's point of view when we're sitting in these board meetings. Because I can tell you, I haven't seen anything that would make me want to hire any of you if you were coming into my place of employment looking for a job. None of you would be employed with me. I think that Mr. Beeling, you've taken it upon yourself to send us that email right after Mr. Rutherford said that K through 6 was going to wear a mask. And not only did you tell us that our kids were going to be wearing a mask after you said in the board meeting that it would be choice, but you said they will comply. I really didn't like that wording, and I'm going to tell you why. People will do as they see fit for themselves, for their own person. You can't force anyone to do something. You can have a rule, but as someone else stated, I think what's beginning to happen is the followers are deciding that, guess what? They're not even practicing the things that they're telling us to do every day. That picture that you guys have of the ribbon cutting, it's completely evident because you can see all the students lined up, about, 200 or 300 of them, all wearing masks, and there you are, all of you. Jolly, having a good old time, only 2 of you had masks on. Very funny, Mr. Beeling. Is that funny that my time is almost up? Because that's what it just looked like. That is so disrespectful. You guys will be voted out. There might not be as many parents here tonight as were the last meeting, but you continue to ignore us by not putting the mask issue on the agenda at all. We're not going away. We're not going away. You guys will never leave the public eye. Mr. Belang, I thank you for waking up these parents because you helped with the middle school and high school students. And for my last 30 seconds, my son would like to say something.
Thank you. My name is Austin Reyna. I am her son. You see, my generation will grow up like to be our parents to understand that you guys are not doing the right thing for us. I agreed with her when she said for me to move schools because I said, you know what? I'm not going to wear a mask. My friends aren't wearing masks. They don't need it. They've been sick with COVID before. Did they die? No. Did any of them have to be hospitalized? No. My brother and my stepdad had severe COVID problems, okay? And I was around them all the time. My mom was around them all the time. And nothing happened to us. My brother at the time was 9 years old with severe asthma and had coronavirus. He was affected for maybe 2 days and it was gone. Okay? Nothing happened to him. I don't understand why you guys don't understand this. Like, kids are not being affected the way that you think they are being affected by this. And you're really just making it worse by mandating masks. So, thank you for your time. That's all I have to say. Your choice.
Our next speaker is Michael Alexander.
My name is Mike Alexander. I have a 7th grader at Portage Central. I don't have anything written down. I didn't prepare for a speech. I didn't even know I was coming here until about an hour and a half ago, and my daughter asked me to. I'm here just because I've got a 7th grader that she can't stand masks, the idea behind it, the headache she gets from it, the rash behind her ears, the disgustingness of all the kids that are touching their masks, moving them, pulling them over their nose, under their nose, coughing in them, taking them off, setting them on the table, grabbing the door handle, pushing buttons. Everything they encounter is filthy from hands touched by these masks that aren't doing anything except they're just dirty rags. I mean, I don't know. There's been a lot of great points made here tonight. I don't care if you want to wear a mask. I don't care if you don't want to wear a mask. I don't care if you want to get vaccinated. I don't care if you don't want to get vaccinated. You know what's best for you. If you have kids, you do what's best for your kids. I know what I feel is best for mine. And, COVID, it's real. It's not going away. Okay, if you feel comfortable sending your child to school without a mask, you should have that right. Just like, somebody that wants to wear it, I don't care that you do. It doesn't have to be yes mask, no mask, parents' choice.
Thank you. Thank you to all our speakers this evening. We'll move on now to comments by board trustees. Does anyone have any comments this evening?
Randy, I'll start. I just want to thank admin, beyond the mask policies and the tough decisions there. I mean, there's a lot of hurdles. I know that people are jumping through, with busing and trying to get kids to athletic events and trying to just pick up kids in the morning. And I'm hearing stories of, leadership driving buses on certain routes and certain things, and everybody's just working hard. And I know I'm just using the buses as an example, but I know there's a lot going on behind the scenes just to keep kids learning. So I just really, really appreciate that. I also want to just acknowledge some of the normalcy that we're experiencing. We're almost there, we're not there, but I got to participate in the homecoming parade, which was fun to watch kids be excited again. They had an outdoor homecoming. It might have been one of the most well-attended because I think kids were excited to be there. And it's just so at Portage North, it's fun to see, from my perspective as a parent, some normalcy coming back to the district, so. But more than anything, you know, Mark, thanks to your team. I know the principals are working hard, making kids feel normal. I know, you know, your curriculum people and facilities people are working hard. I know the teachers are working hard because it's still not quite normal, but we're trying to give the kids the best experience, and I think we're really maximizing learning. So just hats off to everybody, and that's truly, I truly feel that, Mark. So thank you.
Thanks, Rusty. Anyone else?
Hey, Randy. I'll just thank my colleagues really quickly for the extra couple hours of work you put in this afternoon at the retreat. We did a lot of good work on policy 1.2 and 1.5, and I think for the first time there isn't an obvious overload of issues that we have to address at the next retreat. So we might be coming to an end on that group of work. So thank you all.
Thanks, Bo. Anyone else?
Well, thanks to Michelle for bringing forward all the information about the Centennial of Portage Public Schools. Michelle, I'm glad you're taking that over, and we'll look forward to working with you to make some of those things happen.
Thanks, Terry.
And I will reiterate that too. This is a big year for the district, and we can't lose sight of that. It's a lot of years of history, and I'm glad we're going to be celebrating it in the ways that it's going to come together.
Thanks, Keith. Okay, let's move forward. It's our consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda tonight, and that's the approval of minutes from the September 13th, 2021 Committee of the Whole work session. Are there any exceptions to the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved, and we'll move to our first action item, the first of three proclamations on page 14. The first is the National School Lunch Week proclamation. Is there a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to make the following motion that the Board of Education approve the National School Lunch Week proclamation as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there a volunteer to read the proclamation, please?
Terry, I volunteer you because
I'll
you always
read,
do a
but
wonderful
I'm
job.
not reading all three.
I'll pick up one, Terry.
Okay. Proclamation for School Bus Safety Week. No, it's lunch, right?
Page 15.
I turned 2 pages at the same time. Proclamation for National School Lunch Week, October 11 to 15, 2021. Whereas it is with great respect for the accomplishments of Portage's school food service leads, servers, cashiers, and driver personnel and substitutes that we commemorate October 11 to 15, 2021 as National School Lunch Week. During this special observance, we encourage all citizens to recognize the dedication and skill of our school food service employees. And whereas each day, food service employees prepare and serve thousands of lunches. This is in addition to ordering, storing, and expediting each menu item to each location, adhering to food safety, sanitation, and nutritional guidelines, as well as giving each customer the time and consideration to listen, hear, and deliver what they are looking for each day. Fortunately, we have exemplary professionals who have devoted their careers to providing high-quality service to our children and staff. And whereas on behalf of our students and staff, it is a pleasure to commend the women and men who accept and meet the challenges of school food service. The observance of School Lunch Week is a welcome opportunity to thank these patient, caring, skilled public servants. Those involved in this pursuit should be very proud of their contribution to education. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education that we proudly commemorate October 11 to 15, 2021 as National School Lunch Week, and we commend everyone who has contributed to make the successful operation of our lunch program. By working together, we can make a difference in every student's life. Proclaimed this 27th day of February, or I want the year to go by, September 2021, Portage Public Schools Board of Education.
Thanks, Terry. All in favor of the National School Lunch Week proclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Randy, there was real
Excuse
quick.
me.
Susan, thank you. I brought up like busing, and I know you and your staff are doing backflips to get, their struggles in the chains and just changing menus, and I know you're working hard, and I think everybody agrees. There's struggles to just keep normalcy, and thank you so much for everything you guys do.
Yeah, and Susan for helping a lot of kids have good meals in the summertime.
Sorry, Randy. No problem. I was going to make the comments after we voted, but that's okay. That's okay. So we need to vote on this one. All in favor of the National School Lunch Week proclamation, please say aye. Aye. The motion passes. And on behalf of the board, thank you, Susan, to all your folks for all they do. And we know some of them are working shorthanded, and we appreciate the extra effort. Thank you. Our next action item is the School Bus Safety Week proclamation. On page 16, is there a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I'll make the motion that the Board of Education approve the School Bus Safety Week proclamation as presented.
Thanks, Keith. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Do we have a volunteer?
Yes, Randy, I'll
Thank you.
take this one. Proclamation, School Bus Safety Week, October 18, 22, 2021. Whereas it's with great respect for the accomplishments of Portage's professional school bus drivers, mechanics, office staff, and manager that we commemorate October 18 to 22, 2021 as School Bus Safety Week. During this special observance, we encourage all citizens to recognize the dedication and skill of school transportation employees. And whereas coordinating the countless routes, driving so many miles, and supervising the dozens of students on each vehicle requires an outstanding effort. Fortunately, we have exemplary professionals who devoted their careers to transporting our children's safety. And whereas our fleet and staff have a proud tradition of excellence during annual safety inspections by the Michigan State Police Motor Carrier Inspectors. And whereas on behalf of our young people, it's a pleasure to commend the women and men who accept and meet the challenge of school transportation. The observance of School Bus Safety Week is a welcome opportunity to thank these patient, skilled, and caring public servants. Those involved in this pursuit should be very proud of their contribution to education. And whereas this special week serves as a fitting time to urge all drivers to become more aware of school bus safety regulations, serious injuries and deaths occur when motorists fail to stop for school buses. Now that the school year has begun, we remind drivers to be cautious and attentive around school buses. It's also an appropriate time to ask students to listen to their bus drivers and pay close attention to bus safety rules. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education that we proudly commemorate October 18 to 22nd, 2021 as School Bus Safety Week, and we commend everyone who's contributed to the successful operation of our school buses. We also encourage all citizens to drive carefully and to be alert around school buses. By working together, we can make this the safest school year ever. Proclaim this 27th day of September 2021, Portage Public Schools Board of Education.
Is there any discussion or comments? All in favor of the School Bus Safety Week proclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion proclamation passes, and the board thanks our transportation staff, our drivers, and everyone involved with getting our kids to school safely every day. Our last proclamation of the evening is the Red Ribbon Week proclamation. Is there a motion, please?
President Van Antwerp, I move that the Board of Education approve the Red Ribbon Week proclamation as presented.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you very much. And Celeste has volunteered to read the Red Ribbon Week proclamation.
Of course, it would be the tongue twister.
Yes.
Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd through 31st, 2021. Whereas tobacco, alcohol, prescription drug abuse, and other drug usage among young people is a serious concern, and whereas it is imperative that a visible and unified effort of education and prevention be continued to reduce the demand for drugs, and whereas children of parents who talk to their teens about drugs are less likely to use drugs than those who don't, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in communities throughout America during Red Ribbon Week, October the 23rd through 31st, 2021, and whereas business, government, law enforcement, schools, religious institutions, service organizations, youth, physicians, senior citizens, the military, sports teams, and individuals will demonstrate their commitment to drug-free, healthy lifestyles by wearing and displaying red ribbons during the week-long campaign. And now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of Portage Public Schools does hereby proclaim October the 23rd through 31st, 2021 as Red Ribbon Week, and encourage Portage citizens to participate in drug prevention education activities, showing our commitment to a drug-free community through education about the dangers of drug abuse and by setting a good example. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education of the Portage Public Schools encourages all students to pledge, send a message, stay drug-free. Proclaimed this 27th day of September 2021, Portage Public Schools Board of Education.
Thank you, Celeste. Are there any comments? Glad we can take the time to highlight this important topic. All those in favor of approving the Red Ribbon Week proclamation, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. The proclamation is confirmed. Our next action item is to certify a delegate, representative, and alternate for the annual MASB Fall Workshop. Is there anyone who wishes to be a delegate to the Delegate Assembly? Okay, I will. And is there anyone who wishes to be an alternate in case I am unable to attend?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Terry. Any discussion? Stands for the Michigan Association of School Boards. Okay, then, is there a motion, please?
Mr. President, I offer the following motion, that the Board of Education certify the following delegate, Randy Van Antwerp, and alternate Terry Navaria, of the 2021 Michigan Association of School Boards Delegate Assembly as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of certifying the Delegate Assembly representatives and alternates, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. And Terry and I thank you for the confidence you've placed in me. In Terry and I should say. We have a discussion item. The first one is West Middle School sound equipment upgrades. Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first of two discussion items is related to West Middle School sound equipment upgrades. As the board is aware, we dedicated West Middle School and substantial renovations. The Little Theater is one of the items that we have agreed to have some enhancements. The Little Theater refresh, which is listed at item 12 on the remaining enhancements. This recommendation is to purchase sound equipment and supplies for the West Middle School Little Theater from TPC Technologies in the amount of $8,131.92 from the funds that come from the 2009 bond, proposal number 1, unallocated contingency. This proposal is designed to give West Middle School sound equipment the equivalent of technology related to sound that's existing in Central and North Middle School. Our team is already familiar with that equipment, and the recommendation is to replace the old soundboard with the new soundboard that's, again, that's equivalent at both North and Central. As with anything, the board is outdated, and many of the things that the auditorium manager needs to get done is not able to get done with that old equipment. We took our second lowest bid. The company that we went with, TPC Technology, our auditorium manager is very confident in their service, and he has worked with them for several years on past projects. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about the West Middle School sound equipment recommendation.
You did too good a job, no questions.
All right. Our second recommendation is related to video equipment in our auditoriums. This is a recommendation so that we would purchase additional equipment and supplies that would be used in all of our auditoriums. The vendor is B&H Photo in the amount of $11,650. Again, these funds would come from the 2019 Bond Fund Proposal 1 unallocated contingency. Last year, we purchased a package of video equipment for the high school auditoriums, obviously due to COVID and streaming. This equipment was essential in all streaming events for performing in groups, awards and graduation ceremonies, and certain athletic events. And after using the equipment for a year, we've discovered the need to add additional equipment to supplement the systems. And this package is also a camera setup for each of the middle school black boxes and the little theater to record and upload performances. The video equipment and supplies were competitively bid, and B&H Photo being the lowest of the two bids that are also attached. The bids were approved or reviewed by a purchasing manager and our auditorium manager. And I would be happy to answer any questions related to that recommendation as well.
Hey, Johnny.
Yes.
So these are not on that list that you talked about earlier? Is
They-
it just becomes because they're quite small and they come from other contingencies?
They are a part of the auditorium refreshes 4 and 5 for video, and it's a part of the West Middle Little Theater refresh. So those items aren't itemized for the board because it's a laundry list. The board has approved like draperies and other things. So these packages are part of 4 and 5 for the videos, and the sound is part of number 12.
Yep, thank you.
And we just, because PPS, Bo and his team will take care of the install, it's easier to move forward with smaller projects that can be done more quickly. Larger items we would bring to the board much later.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Our last discussion item is the Professional Development Advisory Committee. I think Mike's going to tell us about that.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you for being able to share this with you tonight to get your approval on that. We're recommending, after a review of the exchange of professional development time and instructional time under the School State Aid Act, that we have an advisory board that'll help make recommendations on the March 16th and May 6th professional development events. I gathered some potential people by surveying with the PEA and our Curriculum Instruction Council and other professional learning leaders. And the list that you have before you contains a group of folks that I think would represent us well at all levels of instruction. We're also including some special education supports there. We have our media librarian specialist on there as well, elementary art, middle school counseling, another elementary teacher, 2 teachers who serve as instructional coaches, and then myself and Mackenzie Sheehan, who does a lot of MTSS, and this year is our virtual principal. So bringing you these advisory board members for those 2 dates, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding this.
Is the board's role in all this just to appoint the members of the advisory committee?
Yes.
Okay.
And Mike, this seems like something we have not done in past years.
That's correct.
Yeah, right, so this is a
This-
new,
Yes. Yep, this is an exchange. So on our testing days, so for instance, when we're doing MSTEP or SAT or PSAT, especially at the secondary level, we try and do late arrivals with the other students so that those students don't need to be here as an instructional day, so that we can reduce the loading on that day and make sure that our testing environments are as best as we possibly can for our students. And so this is kind of helps us set that up throughout the year with enough instructional hours.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item on our agenda is on page 30. Motion, please, to go into closed session. Is there a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to make the following motion that the Board of Education move into closed session pursuant of Section 8-H of the Open Meetings Act to discuss matters containing an attorney-client privilege communication.
Thank you, Kurt. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. This is a roll call vote, please, Barb.
Mr. Droppers?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes.
Mr. Rathburn?
Yes.
Dr. Shelton Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Van Antwerp?
Yes.
Mrs. Novaria?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
The motion passes, and we'll be going into closed session, potentially to come back after closed session to take some action. Thank you. Okay, we're back. Last year, the board granted emergency powers to the superintendent to deal with the pandemic crisis during the 2021 school year. We have a motion this evening to reaffirm that for this coming school year, the 21-22 school year. Is there a motion, please?
President Van Antwerp, I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution to grant and reaffirm emergency powers to the superintendent during the 2021-22 school year as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there discussion, please?
Randy, just to underscore that this is the way we've always operated, so I support the motion.
Thank you, Bo. Anyone else? As Bo said, this motion this evening reaffirms our intention to leave operational decisions with the superintendent and administration. And with that, this is a roll call vote, please, Barb.
Mr. Droppers?
Yes.
Mr. Rathburn?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes.
Dr. Shelton Harris?
Yes.
Mr.